So I resigned and kept doing the same thing I was doing there, looking for a great story that I know reality capture can make even better.
This week on the Matthew Byrd podcast.
Everybody has an angle that they have strengths or weaknesses, and you're doing things that nobody else is doing.
The owner of VCTO Labs, providing technology to storytellers.
Pete Kelsey.
Pete Kelsey.
Pete Kelsey.
Pete Kelsey was called in to 3D map the infamous island.
I have been absolutely hooked on reality capture. To me, it's the ultimate currency.
You have to know you're pulling back in order to launch ahead.
Humility has served me incredibly well.
You're providing the opportunity for others to join you on that journey.
I turn around and I look at 4,000 people, 2/3 of them were in tears. As close as I've got in my life to an epiphany.
Everybody has a story.
Everybody has a story.
How are you different than others?
The only difference between you and I is...
All right, Pete, welcome to the studio. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to dig into a little bit of your story. Many people know you, but I think there's some that maybe don't. And I love digging into stories and sharing really the journey of interesting people in the industry. And you fall into that category.
Well, don't know if I'm interesting, but
you work on interesting things.
Yeah.
And I want to get there. But even before, I love hearing a little bit of the journey of how people got to where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So could you take us back a little bit to what was your early career like? What were some of your first roles? And you can truncate some of the story into where you are today, but how did your career start?
Starvation. I made a couple of attempts at getting a degree in geology, but was constantly distracted by the love of my young life, which was music. Believe it or not, I used to have hair down to midway down my back. I was in glam metal bands, guitar player. It's all I wanted to do. But then starvation sets in, and I got married, and okay, I got to get serious. So I went to the very first Autodesk training center in Phoenix called the CAD Institute, and I learned this thing called AutoCAD. And within the first term, I was teaching the class, which was great. It's the whole fish to water thing. It just made sense to me. I had signed up, I think, to get an associate's degree or something like that. This is 35 years ago. This is a long time ago. And discovered I love teaching, and I was in a great band. I was in a really good band. We were chasing a recording deal. Anyway, I left that school early and went to work in 2 different, I call them sweatshops. They were like drafting service bureaus. And that's where I really learned AutoCAD, because at one moment it's architectural, then it's engineering, then it's mechanical, and you know, there's a guy behind me beating a drum going faster, 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 chained to my oar, as it were. And so I really learned my chops there. Anyway, trying to cut to a short version of this, I found a civil engineering firm in Phoenix who was, this is going to date me, was one of the last holdouts of ink on Mylar. And they said, hey, band long-haired guy, will you come in and transition us from ink and Mylar to this new thing called CAD? So I did, and it was life-changing. It was this amazing symbiotic relationship where they taught me civil engineering, land surveying, and I taught them how to use technology to make all that happen. And I owe I owe Don Anderson and George Nelson my career. You know, we all stand on the shoulders of others.
Oh, yeah.
And those two guys had incredible patience with me and faith in me, and it just kept getting better. And I realized I had a love of teaching. So there was a company way back then called Autodesk, which had evolved from DCA. And Autodesk had an independent consulting program called the SRCs, the Autodesk Registered Consultants. Condensing the story, I became one of those. I became an SRC. And then I started teaching people all over the world to use Autodesk, which evolved when Autodesk acquired Autodesk. It became, I've forgotten, it was either Land Desktop or Land Development Desktop, whatever it was. And I taught people how to use that all over the world as an independent consultant while still keeping my chops up at the civil firm. And still being in a band that was kicking ass in the Southwest. And I'm really doing well. We played the Fiesta Bowl every year for like 8 years. Let's see. So that led to I went out on my own and started my own company, Technical Services, because I could only be on a plane so much. So, okay, how am I going to clone myself? Well, I can't. So all these people I met who are incredibly talented people, we just sort of formed this gang. It was just another band, really. And collectively, we went out all over the world teaching people how to be successful with the tech. And then, and Autodesk was my biggest customer. So I was literally Autodesk Consulting before there was Autodesk Consulting. Yeah. So then, next iteration was, there were like 3 VPs in 3 years at the time. Autodesk was desperately trying to figure out the services business, which couldn't be more different than software. Oh, yeah. So finally, they brought in the last VP. Well, the VP who figured it out is still a friend of mine, Dave Rhodes. He came in and turned it around. And as soon as I realized that Dave had sorted this out, I knew my company was dead. My number one customer was now going to do it themselves. So Civil 3D was in the fetal stage. And my guys and I wrote the first textbook for Civil 3D. Let's see. Once I knew my company had no future, or at least in its current state, I went to Autodesk, who knew me well and I knew them well. By this time, my band was playing the huge parties at Autodesk University. Yep. The band was in the picture for a long time. I went to them and I said, look, I have this idea. What about, because, Lynn Allen had been one of the worldwide technical evangelists. Wayne Hodgins was another. And I just went for broke. And I said, what about an evangelist for the civil products? And they said, who? And I said, me. And they said, we love that idea. Well, what about your company? Which I took as a huge compliment. And they said, I'll sell it. It won't go anywhere. So I became the worldwide technical evangelist for civil products at Autodesk and helped bring Civil 3D into the world, which, God, do I carry scars, because those people who know Civil 3D in its first 5 years, it didn't work. It took 5 years before you could do anything with it. And there I was, the face and the voice of this product, trying not to kill myself, waiting for, but working with product development. And, we all got it sorted out. But But that was a great run. And then, gosh, I warned you this is going to be a long story.
I like stories. There's a lot to unpack here.
2008, the global economy melts down. The evangelist program basically stops, and the three of us sort of scatter. I wind up in major accounts in the sales org, which was another amazing education, not to mention relationship building, opportunity, working with the largest AE firms in the world.
Yeah.
And then that evolved into, I started looking for, let me back up. That evolved into working with the federal team. And if there's a tough nut to crack in the sales world, it's the public sector.
Yep.
Because the sales cycles are so long. Yeah. And when you've got the execs in the sales org at Autodesk breathing down your neck saying, what are you going to bring in this quarter? What's in the pipeline? And we're going, this is federal.
Yeah.
You can't measure these things by the quarter. I just took it upon myself with a few others. We've got to figure out a different way to do this. And I said, special projects.
Yep.
Let's figure out a way that we're not selling in the classic sense. And it seems like some BS, but I mean this sincerely because it's become a bit of a mantra for me. It's more inspiring people to action.
Yes.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
So our MO became, let's do a high visibility special project that people will go, wow. My favorite word.
Yep.
Wow. Now, I should, at the same time, this goes back to early 2000s, I've been working with LiDAR and whatever for years and years and years in the civil space. But then when, terrestrial laser scanning, went from fringe to, okay, this has legs, it was moth to flame for me. It was just like AutoCAD years before. It was like, and it made sense to me. I realized where and how it was going to fit and how it was going to change everything. So while all this other stuff is happening, I was totally into that and totally pushing Autodesk. This is where we need to go for obvious reasons, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Where was I? So special projects.
Yep.
The first one I did was on Easter Island, and it was life-changing. I mean, literally life-changing. But it also changed the business because, and I can tell you the moment. So I went to Easter Island quite by accident as a tourist, but I had all my gear with me, all my surveying stuff. Yep. Hoping I'd find somebody who would be inspired by all this. And I did. And she's still a dear friend, Sonia. Love you. She fast forward 18 months or something like that. She is up on main stage at the worldwide sales gathering in Vegas. It's called One Team that Autodesk has every year. And she basically gets up in front of every reseller, every partner, the entire Autodesk global staff, and says, thank you for saving my country.
That's a statement.
Yeah. And I'm sitting in the front row next to the then senior VP of sales, and he said my favorite word. He said, wow. And then the person on the other side of me said, Pete, turn around, turn around, look. So I turn around and I look at 4,000 people, and about 2/3 of them were in tears. It was as close as I've got in my life to an epiphany.
Yep.
It was like, I know what I want to do for the rest of my career, for the rest of my life. You can't put a price on what's happening in this room.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
And there's the segue to reality capture.
Yep.
Because you know this, but I've said this for many years, name me a medium that provides context better than reality capture. You can't.
Yeah.
And what price context? To me, it's the ultimate currency.
Yeah.
Because everybody remembers the first time they saw a mesh or a point cloud, they just go, wow. And if you're as old as I am, we've seen it before. The first time, God, when Google Earth was new, holy, it's witchcraft, right?
Yeah.
And we all, let's go find our home, or where we had our first date, or blah, 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 blah. Same kind of thing. So anyway, I have been absolutely hooked on reality capture because of its unique capacity for providing context. Now, granted, I come from the AEC space, love it.
Yep.
It keeps the lights on. I still dabble in it. But if I'm content, and I mean really content with one thing, it's reality capture is bigger than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the day, to me, there's a million sort of tactical purposes for it, and they're all meaningful, and a lot of people doing well and making good livings. But the bigger picture is that's what I've been picking at since I left Autodesk. So when the culture at Autodesk became sort of binary, it's black and white, there's no gray, where does that leave a creative like myself?
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
So I resigned and literally kept doing the same thing I was doing there ever since.
Yep.
Looking for a great story that I know reality capture can make even better.
Mm-hmm.
And quite by accident, I hope, this is literally a hope more than a statement. This stuff is cool. And it can change lives. I've seen that happen. It can earn folks a good living. I've seen that happen. And I don't think, I bet you agree. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I don't think we've seen the ceiling.
Oh, no.
And I don't think either of us or anybody else could even venture a guess as to what the ceiling looks like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And I think as we dig into the conversation, I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about thoughts of the future and where it's headed. But honestly, I want to go back to some of what we've even already heard, because I also like using the past to inform the future, right? And one thing that I like about your story, which not to date myself, but I wasn't around in the earlier days of your career, but hearing, I'm in this state where I get to see and talk with younger folk of who are stepping in when BIM is already a thing, right?
Yep.
Part of your story was going from hand drafting and working with a company to even implement regular CAD, which is now what we're still seeing people start transitioning out of. So you also have seen now multiple cycles of major transformation. Would you say some of the pain points or difficulties in companies transitioning, from hand to CAD, or from CAD to BIM, or from regular survey to reality capture, do you see some of the challenges or the processes of industry-wide change being the same between some of those that you've experienced?
Absolutely, because there's a great truth, and this is fact, I'm not making this up. Humans fear change more than death.
Yeah.
So, and this is how I made a good living in my early days, was quite literally change management.
Mm-hmm.
With Moore's Law and the whole crossing the chasm thing. And you're right, I've been through, this is where all this gray and all these wrinkles come from. I've not only navigated it personally, but helped others cross these chasms over the years, the one thing to me that's constant is the cultural, the anthropological, the psychological. It's wow. We do fear change more than death. So this is the segue back to inspiring people to action rather than the binary. Here's a plan, follow the plan, and all will be well.
Yep.
You know what? Change never goes well.
Yeah.
I can remember telling huge firms, look, the first couple of weeks are going to be brutal and bloody, and it's not going to be fun, and you're going to watch your profit margin collapse. But if we've done our jobs right, and the plan works, and we've most importantly, to your question, got the folks, the people ready for this to minimize the fear and the panic, which leads to full stop, we'll see that profit margin not only get back to where it was, but continue up.
Yeah. And it's that, that process with change, with innovation, and like that change of, if you want to stop something to adopt something else, you have to know. I say it's kind of like the slingshot, right? Like, or you have to take 2 steps back, right? Or you have to know you're pulling back in order to launch ahead.
Yeah.
You have to know that, and that's where, I think a lot of companies struggle to accept that, right? They don't want to spend the money, or they don't want to spend the time because it interrupts what today looks like. But if you're a company that wants to become an industry leader, you want to be competitive in your market, you want to move ahead to where the future's going, you have to adopt that mindset as an organization. And that's why we even see, I feel like more today than in the past, companies are understanding that, and they're building teams or departments or individual roles within their company that are dedicated to like research, and they're looking into new technology, and they're trialing things. But I definitely don't think it's the majority. I think it's still still a small percent that are really leaning into that.
Yeah. You remind me, not to like pick on the demographic, but the engineering world from where I come from, it's engineering. It's numbers. It's data. It's a clear path to making the right decision. All that sort of stuff. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's a decision. It's a mindset. It's like I've known some guys in my career who've made a fortune, writing books about innovation and da-da-da. To me, because I'm an old guy, it's a decision. You either do or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of a culture at any enterprise is easy to spot.
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
So I agree with you that, I hope what you say is true, that, that sort of mindset is on the rise. I'll bet you're right, because technology, God, with every passing year, it seems like speed is picking up.
Yep.
And if you're not paying attention to that, which was a true argument 25 years ago, but now I think it feels more hastened, more urgent.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you are not paying attention in some capacity,
Mm-hmm.
if you're so laser focused on the deliverable and existing workflows and existing processes, the whole if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Respect. But you better get on this bus or you're going to get run over by it.
Yeah. It's really true. And there's so much change happening. Like, there's so much technology. You've seen it longer than I have, but even in the time, I started with a laser scanner 15 years ago. Today, that's still a long time ago. There's people stepping into it for the first time today. There are people still finding out what it even is right now. The amount of options of technology that are available today versus 10 years ago is ridiculous. And it just keeps speeding up. More people see this need. More people are seeing the technology. They're starting to develop different types. Again, how many scanner options were there 15 years ago? How many drone options were people using on a site 10, 15 years ago? Now there's just 10 times or 100 times that. Handhelds and backpacks, and it's in your phone, and it's in glasses, and so it is spreading the awareness of the need to look at technology in a whole, because that variety is there, and it's stepping into kind of all areas of work. And then you also get this is another big conversation, is who is now stepping into careers out of college. It's younger folk who grew up with iPads and iPhones and XR and headsets, and they step into a company that, if they're not thinking forward and talking about those tech, they're even questioning why they work at that company. And so it's even starting to push some of that change. So I think there's multiple angles and reasons that I think we're seeing a faster adoption to tech now, from the price points coming down, the variety of options coming down, the workforce that's entering. I think there's a lot of reasons, but I don't think there's any questioning that it's happening. No.
And if I'll say it again, it's like you really, reality capture is certainly not going anywhere. That genie's been out of the bottle for a long time. It's not going back in. If you're in the AEC world and you're not doing this, it reminds me of BIM 15 years ago. BIM. I got so tired of that term. But the point is, during that CAD to BIM transition, when do we jump, right? Early adopters, bleeding edge, laggards, all that sort of thing. In my 30 plus years, I don't have the answer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
My another mantra that has served me well is, I'm going to let somebody else beta test it. So have I ever been bleeding edge adopter? Not really. More so now than when I was managing plan sets and designs and time and money and
when you adopt, those are big questions for people. And I think, to me, that really comes down to a personal choice or a company choice, right? You have to know that the earlier you are in the technology, the more you're going to pay, the more you're going to invest, the more time it takes, the more failures you're going to have. But if you're a company that wants to take on some of that investment and risk, you might also be the one who figures out a lane or a certain use of technology and beats others to it, which is definitely a market differentiator. It draws more attention to you. It's something that's above other companies. So, when you're talking about companies that have a competitive landscape, right? There's 1,000 architecture firms. There's 1,000 engineering firms. There's 1,000 surveying firms. How are you different than others? And I think the way you look at innovation, how fast can you collect a job site? What kind of deliverables do you have? Is it faster or slower? What's the schedule? All of the effects that come out of new technologies play into all of the actual effects in your business.
Absolutely.
So then you just have to choose where you want to be on that scale.
Right.
Safe,
right,
and a little bit behind, or expensive and a little ahead, or you find the sweet spot.
And the irony is that no matter what path you choose, there's going to be the dip.
Yeah.
If you're a laggard, you're going to suffer. If you are reactionary, it's going to dip, and then hopefully if you react quick enough and the implementation goes okay. But no matter what path, maybe that's the message. No matter what path you take, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And it's going to suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you'll get there. I I'm reminded of this story. It was life-changing for me. I was trying to close a deal with an enormous AE firm, and we were paired at the time. There was the traditional account manager, the sales guy, and me, the technical sales guy. And the sales guy wasn't on this client visit. I was there alone. We were at lunch, and we'd been working and trying to get this firm to adopt BIM. No. We have all this customized code and standards and templates, and we can't. So finally we're at lunch, and these two guys, still friends of mine, said, "Pete, how do you see us?" And I'm talking like milliseconds. I didn't even think. I said, "You're vulnerable." And I heard myself say it, and I go,
"Oh,
there's $15-20 million deal here on the table, and I just told the client that I think they're vulnerable." And they adopted BIM.
Yeah.
And it wasn't me pressuring them. It wasn't me saying, it was, "Look, I'm worried about you. We are business partners."
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're business partners. I'm selling the same solutions to all your competitors, and they're already on this bus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was, for me, it was not being afraid to just, hey, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time. You really, really need to get serious about change implementation. So some things, it's deja vu all over again.
Yeah. Different tech, same process, same life cycle of.
And that's why I say, to your question a while ago, I think the number one thing is managing the people, the fear.
Yeah.
When do we jump? Is this what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
I think if you develop some kind of skills at helping people with that, or courage to do it yourself, because let's face it, all of us, I do this constantly, because reality capture changes, to your point, we were just talking about it, weekly at least. Some new sensor, some new AI-based tweak to, post-processing.
Yeah.
God knows what it is. You go, wow, okay. Like, case in point for me, splats.
Yeah.
Okay. 6 months ago, splat, that's a stain on my windshield.
Yeah. Yeah. Very quick change.
And now, what am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with this? So in my headspace, just because I'm an old civil survey guy, until it's spatial, I'm going to let somebody else beta test it.
Yeah.
I'm watching it. It's cool.
Yeah.
I know I have to be paying attention, but, I'll let somebody else suffer the early adopter wounds.
Yeah. And man, that I haven't gone super deep in it, but, tracking it as well, watching it, having conversations, and even it has changed so quickly, right? Like you first started hearing about it and it was one term, and then like weeks later they're like, that's old now, there's a whole new process. And you're like, wait, nerfs, no, Gaussian splats, how is that different? What do you so certain things like that, when it starts really catching on, just like the other tech, right? There used to be one laser scanner, now there's 50 or 100. Well, even with this technology, now that the awareness is being built around it, there's so many more people paying attention to it, developing in it, trying to figure out how to use different things, like new software is being built around it. So it will have a, really, steep up and downs, right? And at some point it'll start to level out to where it's like, okay, there's a core technology here and there's a core use case, and there's some platforms that are easy to adopt, and then people start really getting into it. It's hard when it's in the Wild West phase.
It sure is.
But it is cool.
If you or anyone else were to ask me, okay, Pete, how do you're a human, you fear change more than death, how do you deal with this? My peeps, my community.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which is the beauty of RCN, which is I could try to go this alone, but you soon realize in any undertaking that it's going to be a whole lot easier if you surround yourself with really capable people.
Yep.
Like, I don't like the word expert.
Yeah.
I never use it. I'm not an expert. I fall flat on my face every damn day.
Yep.
I make huge mistakes, but to the point, I surround myself with people I trust, who I know I can say, look, I'm just a knucklehead. I have a question about splats, or I've been laser scanning for 20 years, but how in the world does this work? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
I manage it with community.
Absolutely. Well, you're right. Thank you for the plug. It's the whole vision and mission behind what we're trying to build. Go, and even what you've shared about your thoughts behind storytelling, behind inspiration, which I still want to talk more about. That is, we see that as well, right? The 3 words that we identified that encompass everything we do or want to do is inspire, inform, and empower. So the inspiration piece, back to some of the points you've shared, right, is instead of trying to force things on people, or, and this goes even back to like how people market and how people create sales content, whatever. My whole thing has been like, educate people, create content that is actually showing how something is used. And then again, to your point, take it the next level and like do something really interesting with it. Find a really cool story, find a really cool angle. That is how I built my entire community early on. When I first got into scanning, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so what was I doing? I was taking screenshots of data. I was early on LinkedIn. Like, I started posting and going like, look at this. Look at this random building I scanned. It's amazing. This is a point cloud. It's and so it all comes from showing people. And again, that falls within that inspiration piece of like, if you can get people to see the tech, see the story, see the example, and go, what the heck is that? Like, I want to know more. Now you've cracked the code of getting interest, getting awareness, getting buy-in. The next piece for us is inform, which is like, okay, now let's take it a step further. We've got the inspiration piece, we've got the hook in. Now we need to educate you on like, what are these technologies? How do they work? What are the differences between the technologies? How do they apply to your type of industry or your type of project? And then the last piece being the empower, which is build the community, put on events, let these people come and meet each other, leave with relationships where like, hey, I don't know how to do that thing, but I know someone who does. I'm a part of this group. I met this guy. I saw this presentation. It's the whole mission behind what we're building is those 3 pieces, whether it be through a podcast, whether it be through a conference presentation. And the reason I saw this as an opportunity is it's what's made a difference for me, but we all do it on our own, right? We go to a conference and we meet random people, or we try to connect with them online, but I've never really seen like this ongoing place to connect, to communicate, to be a part of that community. It's always like one-on-one relationships. And so for me, if we can develop this community into something where people can have ongoing communication and learning and sharing, that's what I think can start to help transform the whole industry. And to me, part of that is also shared learnings, right? We're talking about this in the committees that we've created, where we're saying, hey, instead of every construction company going through the process of getting a scanner and trialing a first-time project, let's collectively do it, document it, write it up, create a video about it, and share it out to all construction companies. So now we're helping the whole industry learn faster, collaborate together in those shared learnings.
Yeah. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. And I was asked, it doesn't matter where or when, but somebody half my age saying, what's the piece of advice, you could give me? And I'm like, I'm so unqualified to answer that question. Write better songs, get a better agent.
There you go.
From my previous life.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, to me, humility has served me incredibly well. I describe myself as an idiot, or somebody, my technical skills, I'm an inch deep and a mile wide.
Yeah.
I know a little about a lot. I know a little more about a few things. But look, I'm here. It's fun to inspire others.
Yeah.
But nothing's better than being inspired.
Yeah.
Make me say, wow.
Yeah.
Right? Show me something. Hardware, software, a point cloud, a mesh, I don't care. And I'm yours.
Yeah.
I'm yours. So it's I'm an expert and I have nothing to learn and everything to put out there. Give me a break.
Yep.
Change the channel.
Yes.
I have no interest in that at all. So for me, it's, wow, what am I going to learn today?
Yep.
Another reason for surrounding yourself with really sharp people and just and having the courage to just step back and, wow, these folks are good. And the knowledge exchange is going to be always every project I've ever undertaken. I might get lucky and go, hey, did you know this worked? Wow, that's great. Thank God I still count. I'm relevant. But 9 times out of 10, it's, wow, show me that again? Holy moly.
I mean, your piece of advice there is one of the biggest pieces of advice from successful business people, right? It is, you should try to never be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
And even if you are in some ways, don't feel like you are. Don't act like you are. Like, your goal should always be to be a listener, to try to learn from those around you, try to surround yourself with smarter people. Building a company, right? It's like, what am I not good at? And I want to find that person. I'm not going to say I'm the best at everything. No, you have to know, and self-awareness, right? What are you good at? What are you not good at? How do you then use that, in a way of filling the gaps or building relationships and being honest with that?
Yeah. And even the things you think you're good at, how could I get better?
Forever. Yep. There's always room. We keep this mindset of like, every day or every month or every year, just at least focusing on 1% better, right?
Yeah.
Whether, we take this into account with our podcast or with our conference, or like, hey, it went well. It's good. We like the quality, but what can we improve? Mm-hmm. What can we improve? And it's a culture thing, right? That you even have to build in the mindset of your team, because some people have this mindset of like, if you tell me it could have been done better, then I'm not doing good. It's like, no, you should have that forever mindset of like, let's keep tweaking together. It's a thing that will never end, because there's always something to improve. There's always something to learn. But I'll go back to even saying, this is back to you, and even a compliment to you though, is you're saying, you don't really have advice to give and you're not the expert in anything, but how many people are willing to, go try these new things and take the risk and take the change? And, everybody has an angle that they have strengths or weaknesses. And I mean, you're doing things that nobody else is doing. How many people are diving down and doing, historic projects?
That means a lot to me. Thank you. But for those who are paying attention, anything good that's happened to me professionally is because of the teams that I put together. And I really work hard on this, that like, I like to think anyone who really went out on social media and tried to find something I put out there that was in the first person, you won't see it. You won't find it. Because it's never, the things that I do are never about me. It's about, here's John and Joe and Mary, and wow, look at this team that has said, wow, yeah, I'd like to be a part of that. So, and frankly, it's just like being in a band.
Yep.
Hey, I could never pull off that solo, or my voice can't do that harmony. It's about what's good for the band.
Totally.
It's not, well, it's still a great term. LSD, lead singer disease.
There you
It's like, I've worked with lead singers my whole life. You can be a lead singer and still be, wow, that was great. Great job.
Yeah.
Or, how did you do that? Or, it's just, even just a hint at, the door is open to input. And those are the people that I always surround myself with.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any other correlations? Because I was actually going to specifically ask you that. Are there any other correlations that you've brought along from your love of music and
everything?
Yeah,
I can relate. I can relate my 30 years in the music business to anything and everything. Give you an example. You had me present at RCN 2 years ago. It was great. And well, what did I do? It's Showbiz 101. Who's my audience? Got to put together a set list. You got to play something that they're going to respond to. You have to know your set list well enough to know that, well, that didn't work. I won't do that again. That did. Let's do that again. Then how you build the set list, because frankly, it's almost sexual. It's nope, not quite. That's show business. It's okay, set list, who can take the solo, everything, but focused on the audience, on the audience. Because like when I'm out in the audience, and I spend far more time listening than, pontificating, I'm like, wow, that was great. And I'll freely admit it, I've been plagiarizing other great presenters and performers and musicians my entire life. Yep. It's like, wow, that was amazing. But what made that amazing? So, yeah, I've got, you could say anything. And oh, that reminds me of a story in the band. And one of the things, it's sort of related, that you touched on a minute ago reminds me of a great piece of advice I had, was in the technical space, technical guys like you and I can get so lost in the what and the how. Here's the widget, the what, and if you push this button, this happens. The how. Here's the what, and here's the how, and then you stop and you hope you get a response. Yeah. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was 2 words: so that. Here's how it works. Back in my days with Civil 3D, when it didn't work at all, and it was very hard to inspire people to an expensive piece of software that crashed when you turned it on. Anyway, here's Civil 3D, and if you push this button, this is going to happen. Maybe 2 or 3 technical people in the audience go, cool. Wow. Here's Civil 3D. If you push this button, this is going to happen so that you can do more in less time. It's such a simple thing. Yeah. But what it does is it brings it back to the audience. Yeah.
To why they care.
It's magical for Because, when I was half my age and super technical and I could make Land Desktop do my laundry, I knew everything about that piece of software. What and how. It's where I lived. But I wasn't really doing very well with customers until somebody said, so that.
Yeah.
Because it'll bring it. So that you bring the conversation back to them. Anyway, it's priceless little bit of information that was shared with me.
Yep.
That if you're in the technical world like we are, try it.
Yeah. Very, very similar vein. I really like that angle. Very similar vein. I've heard the same and used the same is the angle of almost never even selling the technology, but like if you're, back when I started my service company, right? I owned a scanner and I was doing laser scanning. Initially, people in that role think I'm selling laser scanning. Like, hey, I do scanning, hire me to scan. It's like, no, you have to figure out, back to the band or the presentation analogy, who's the audience? Let's use an example again, right? Architect. What does an architect need or want? Floor plans of a building, as an example. Of course, there's many things it could be. So if you're a scanner, you're trying to sell the audience of an architect to get a floor plan faster, how should you sell your service? Not, I do laser scanning. You should sell it as, I can create floor plans way faster than most architects do. Then they now, are inspired to ask the question of like, how can you do that? Well, I use this advanced technology to capture it faster, and here's what it does, and here's what it reduces. And now it's like, okay, you're actually solving the problem I want in a way I didn't even know was possible. If you just say laser scanning and they don't know what all that even means, they're just going to go, sorry, like, I don't even want to talk to you. I'm busy doing floor plans by hand.
Right.
Right.
Go sell somewhere else.
Yeah. You got to sell the solution to a specific problem or to a specific project type, as opposed to, I have the shiny tool, I expect you're going to want it. Yeah.
And what a slippery slope that is to fall into with reality capture. Because you think, well, I'll speak for myself. You see a point cloud or a mesh, and you're like, and you just assume that you put that in front of a client, a customer, anyone, they're going to go, wow, how do I get me some of that mojo? Don't make that, to your point, don't make that assumption.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's cool, so that.
Yes. Yep.
It is cool. You're right.
Yep.
It will change your business. It is relevant. All your instincts that are firing are true. And here, here are the problems that it will solve that you might not be thinking about.
Yeah. I love that. I love the so that brings it back around. And I think, the best way when you get really specific to a certain client type, project type, industry type is ask a lot of questions, right? Mm-hmm. Like understand where their bottlenecks or where their headaches or what they do now, so that you can make the so that just super relevant to them specifically, right? You care about that audience as opposed to kind of this generic approach.
Yeah.
Love it. What comes to mind if you were to say some of the biggest challenges you've faced in your career journey?
Challenges. Well, managing change, work-life balance, because boy, do I love what I do.
Yep. It's not even a job anymore, right?
I know. I don't
it's
work.
Playtime.
I don't work for a living. I'm making a living having a blast.
Yeah.
And I know that. So work-life balance, I live in a world of sparkly objects, and I want to chase them all. And, well, no, I have somebody at home who I'm the love of my life, and working on that, super important.
Yeah.
And, in earlier parts of my life, screwing that up.
Yep.
More than a few times.
Yep.
What else? We talked about humility because, maybe a time or two when I know I'm right. But, it doesn't matter. That is not as important strategically as the relationship or as the business potential or relationship potential. It's another phrase I've used for so long, check your ego at the door. I have one. We all do. Mm-hmm. And balancing that, it's like, where's that line, much like, implementing change, where's that line where I say, stop?
Yeah.
Or just, is this the hill I want to die on? Maybe.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, maybe not. So, challenges.
I like that point while you're thinking. It was actually some even marriage advice I got back in the day. Not that I'm that old, but back in the day, was, choose your battles, right? Same goes for any relationship, any situation, any conversation. It's like, what is worth, right? The arguing over, or where do you accept, I think taking that into all situations, because, man, right? Doing business is about people. People want to work with people. If you're someone that you're always right, you're very quickly going to cut yourself out of certain relationships and certain conversations.
You're going to miss out.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to miss out on so much. You just welcome to the noise in my head. I've got so many things. Damn, I hate when that happens. It was a good thought too, but it'll come back.
It'll come back. So we've talked a bit about background and history, and actually, before we jump to future, I do wanna pose, because you've done a lot of cool creative projects and working on a lot of things, from entertainment stuff to historic preservation stuff. What are one or two of your favorite projects that you've worked on?
Easy answer. Easter Island. It was. I got the tattoo
to prove it.
Well, I told you the one story about how we inspired a room full of people to action. Yeah. Meaning, wow, I thought we were just selling software.
Yeah.
No, you're literally changing the world.
Yeah.
And that sounds grandiose and romantic, but I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
Just at a personal level, my God. Do I want to go here? Yeah, I do. So at that big sales event, I was going through chemotherapy. I thought I was going to die. But the project had been so transformational, personally, professionally, everything. I looked at my oncologist and I said, I need to be on my feet for 2 days because I have to go to Vegas and introduce this woman on this project I've been working on for 18 months. And my doc looked at me and said, are you out of your blankety blank mind? I'm like, it means this much to me. So if I am, call me crazy, but I have to go. I have to do this because the relationships forged there were so and remain so powerful. So that one is, that project changed my whole life. I cut my hair. I quit my band. I mean, everything. Wow. Like I said, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with whatever time I have left before the long dirt nap. That's it.
Yeah. That's cool. Those are really special, scenarios to find when you finally find that, right? A combination of things that you love doing and you actually see it impact other people. That's like the dream job, right? Something you love to do, something that helps others, it inspires others. Oh.
Yeah, and to me it's the only currency that matters. I mean, I like making money. It's fun.
Yeah, it's good to eat too. Pay bills.
It's professional professional success, give me some more of that. I get it. But because I have a lot more years in back of me than I do in front, the value, the compass moves.
Yeah.
And Easter Island was great, or a project that really puts the team and the partners under a spotlight, because that's really my MO. Is I will say, this is going to happen. I'd love for you to come. And I can't pay you, but the return on investment will be the lens of the world if we do this right.
Which I have to say is really special, because you're also taking what you did and what you experienced and the joy you got out of seeing it impact others and that emotional state, to now you're providing the opportunity for others to join you on that journey in projects and get to start feeling that and seeing that. Maybe it's not even exactly the same level, but the fact that you're creating opportunity for others to join you is very cool.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to think of an example. It's fun to go and have an adventure, but it's a whole lot more fun to have an adventure with your friends.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, and to bring it back to like work, it's maybe a brand, a laser scan, a hardware company or a software company. It's like, this has never been tried before. Want to play? Because if it works, you won't be selling anymore. This is what I've learned in my career. You will be inspiring people to action.
Yeah.
What would happen if we put your brand on the landing page of the New York Times?
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
I guarantee you your phone's going
calls.
to ring. Yeah. I guarantee you. So projects that make that happen. So, that's part of my formula, is start with a great story.
Yep.
And that leads back to things I was doing when I was at Autodesk. I was the guy waving my hand saying the what and the how. Yeah, it resonates. And yeah, it's really important because it's your product. Got it. But how about why? How about why does this matter? Why should I pay attention? Right? So I would wave my hand saying, you've got it backwards. You're leading with a product and go find a story that can support it. I was like, no, it's backwards. Go find a great story that the products can make better. That's what I do for a living.
Yeah. It's such a great approach, and I think this will be really valuable for a lot of the companies, because there's so many young people that are trying to start out now, like creating products or creating services or starting businesses or stepping out on their own, and everybody asks these questions like, how do we market to the industry? How do we sell this? It's like, this is the starting point. If you can tell stories, if you can create content, if you can educate, you'll be the one getting the phone calls, not trying to cold call a bunch of companies.
Yeah.
It's such a better angle than...
And it was another part of that argument. We are so in lockstep. We're not arguing, we're agreeing. All that outgoing effort, cold calls and paying for lists and going to see customers and podcasts and white papers and all that outgoing stuff. Cool. It needs to happen. I'm not saying it's wrong, but what if you could change all of that outgoing? That's trying to make the phone ring, or I'm not saying this right. All that outgoing effort to, what could we do to reverse all that outgoing to incoming? It's a salesperson's dream.
Yeah.
Right? attract the people
Yep.
to the brand.
Yep.
And in this case, this is why I've been addicted to reality capture since the beginning, is just it's almost cheating.
Yeah.
Because it is the ultimate medium for providing context, understanding.
Yeah.
You see a model, a mesh, whatever it is. I've seen this happen all over the world. It transcends language.
Yeah.
You don't even have to speak the same language. They go.
Yep. Yeah. It's so visual.
So if you're young and you're getting into this space, you have chose very well.
Yep. Yep.
Because it is the ultimate currency. So if you're an AEC killer, you will do very well. Reality capture to AEC and AECO is just what BIM was to it. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It already is happening. It's inevitable. Now, the firms the laggards are going, we're in a reactionary, here we are, we're reacting to it, whereas we could have been proactive a couple of years ago. No, it is, I can't think of a better time to be getting into this space because it will transcend AC.
Yeah.
I'm playing in entertainment.
Yep.
Because it's context.
Yes.
It's who else? It's the part, if there's another way to drive this point that I'm suffering to make home, is, I say this all the time, is when you get to the post-processing stage, and I'm preaching to the choir, I know. But
that's okay. We're preaching to everybody.
Yeah, to the folks who don't know this. So what? Or so that? What can I do with this data when it's done? No BS, absolute deadpan, dead serious, anything you want.
Yeah.
You're only limited by your imagination.
Yep.
It's just software.
Yeah.
So, like when we did Alcatraz, I told the client, I'll guarantee you're going to hear from Hollywood. Hollywood? What are you talking about? We have every space of Alcatraz inside and out. Hollywood's going to think, wow, we should make the remake of Escape from Alcatraz. We could do the whole thing in the studio and green screen it and save tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's already been to happen.
Yeah.
It's anything, literally anything. Virtual tourism? Yes.
Yeah.
Operation and maintenance? Yes.
Yep.
Safety and security? Yes. Yeah. It's a salesman's dream.
Yeah.
The data that we are creating can be applied to anything.
Yep. That is why I really like this angle of inspiring more people to come focus on this industry and this technology and this ecosystem, is because if we get creative people and really smart people to see this, and again, I'll even go back to people coming out of school. What do I want to do? I'll be one in a million job applicants to go work as a programmer at Facebook or Meta or Google or Amazon or wherever else. It's like, what if we could start collectively through media, through social, through inspirational content, start inspiring the general public to know about these technologies, to know what's here, to know the opportunity, and we could start bringing some really smart talent, some really smart programmers, new startups focused on how to use this data and solve specific problems. That's where I think over the next several years we start seeing even more change, because it sounds funny, but it is so true. This technology is so powerful to so many different applications and jobs and industries. What could be done with the data? It feels unlimited.
Anything.
And historically, I started out with it just in laser scanning. But just what laser scanning did for me in my career and the opportunities it took me into is what opened my eyes to see this need for more education across the entire ecosystem of built environment. Because when I started scanning, I was at a survey firm, and our first use case was in oil and gas facilities. I had never worked in buildings or architecture, but guess what? After I started sharing scanning and showing screenshots, then you get an architect reach out and say, hey, can you do that for a building? Then we're like, yeah, we can help do that, and we'll figure out how this is going to solve your problem. Then we get called into forensics, and now I'm mapping car accidents. I'm like, I would have never, I've seen, TV shows about forensics. I didn't know I'd be working in it. And that just kept happening over a matter of 5, 6, 7 years. And I tell people, I'm like, I don't ever say this in a bragging way, but I literally have touched like every project I can think of. Inside nuclear containment, inside ships, flying to Hawaii, in high rises, in oil and gas, in, FBI, Tesla, like so many industries, so many different use cases that I'm like, as an industry, there's so many people that don't know that yet. They're in their use case and their world. They don't see this application. Those of us that start seeing the cross-industry applications, like, this is way bigger than what most people understand or even think it is. And the amount of people that really see that and are specializing in that or are really, really taking this on and growing and running with it, it's a small group. And as the demand grows, I'm already seeing it now, is even in just, let's go back to AEC. Right now, people are starting to see the value in this. They're trying to build departments around scanning or around reality capture or around drone or around... And now there's really a lack of experts, maybe not to use experts, I know you don't like that term. There are a lack of people that are really good at this technology. The demand is growing. And now the amount of people that are like ready to take on a leadership role in scanning and reality capture, it is small. There are so many people trying to hire right now that are not finding the people they need. So I keep trying to go back and say, like, if you don't like the role you're in now, you're doing traditional stuff, you're in a different industry, if you just get curious, find people to ask questions to, learn about this, play with it on your iPhone. Like, people don't even know you can just download a free scanning app and start learning scanning with your phone. Yep. If you just get curious and start stepping your toes in, do some research, learn about it, you could snap your fingers, get a entry-level job with someone learning this and get into it. Within a couple years, you're a pretty experienced person at that point. The path to get a very successful career in this field, it is not a long runway. You don't need a degree. You don't need to have a background. You just have to be interested in the tech and be willing to really dig in and learn, because as that demand grows, schools aren't pumping out enough people who know this. Like, some of them are starting to touch their toes in the water, but I've even heard from several different universities that have reached out and said, like, we want to start like trying to educate on this, but we need someone to come in and teach it. Well, all the right people to teach it are busy in jobs, So we're at this point that there's a lot of opportunity out there and coming and growing. We need more people interested in this.
Couldn't agree more. And if I'm thinking of the time to invest, right? God, everybody, we all wish, wow, if I'd only known I should have bought NVIDIA, 8 years ago, I'd be retired and blah, 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 blah. If you are considering investing in reality capture, now's the time.
Yeah.
Because with no exaggeration, I can say that because it is the ultimate tool for providing context, and that context is the ultimate currency, we're all minting. If you're creating reality capture data, you're the mint. You're creating this currency. So the data that's being created, I don't care what it is, save it somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
watch The Matrix. What is that, 25 years old now? It's The Matrix, okay? The metaverse, whatever the term is today. To have reality data for anything, from a coffee cup to you, to this building, to this state, you can't put a price on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, lean in.
Yeah.
Invest.
Yeah.
We're bullish on reality capture. If I was 21 years old again, it'd be like when I was in a band. Forsake everything else. I'm in.
Yeah. On that note, I think we can start narrowing in a little bit on some of the conversation here, maybe talking about the future a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to get your take on it, which, again, thus far I feel like we're pretty aligned on everything we're talking about here. I truly see a future in that there is a digital twin, if you will, which, of course, we can argue the definition of that, but I see this vision of the future that there is a digital replica, a digital twin of everything. I mean, and this future too, where I don't know if it's a single platform or what, but every building should have a digital replica.
Yep.
And there's different reasons, right? If we're already mapping it for construction, well, why not turn that into some type of database for safety and for public safety use and for mapping exit routes and for, like, there's so many, again, we go back to the so many different uses of data. Historically, and even up to today, part of the problem, I think, is that data still lives in silos. One architect scanned a building because they wanted the floor plan. Well, no one else on the job knew they scanned it. They didn't get to benefit from the data, right? I see the first step is, if we talk about even a project specific, is like, okay, instead of the mechanical guy doing his own scans for his data and the architect doing his own scans for his own data and the GC doing it for insurance purposes for their own data, it's like I see this future that all of these technologies become more of a project-wide ecosystem. I think that's the first step to kind of this mass growth, where it's captured once. All the data is shared to all the parties for all to benefit from, because now it reduces cost. Everyone's using the same data. It's, shared benefit. Then I see that growing even bigger to where it's like, and I'm seeing those conversations happening with citywide interest, right? Let's map every building for XYZ use case. So all of this leads to, we see these benefits, we see this opportunity. I really see that future in that every bridge, every building, every road, everything is being mapped, is being documented, the data is being used for different purposes.
Yeah. And the GIS people are going, are you kidding me? We've been saying this for 40 years, right? But so we're in lockstep again. But I think it's, we were talking earlier that there's no ceiling. I think it's even bigger than that. I mean, I always defer to AEC because that's where I come from. I do the same thing. But when you say a digital twin of everything, I lean in and I go, everything.
Yeah.
Every physical thing.
Yep.
So if you're manufacturing something, that thing, every part that makes up that thing, I mean, come on, it's the Google model.
Yeah.
He or she with the most data wins and gets extraordinarily wealthy. Okay? Case in point, it came up recently. I had a conversation about LA 28, Los Angeles Olympics 2028, which was a pressure cooker anyway. 3 years to completely rebuild Los Angeles in such a way to accommodate the Olympic Games. Then the fires happened.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't understand that, well, did anything burn down relevant to the Olympic Games? Well, not in the way you're probably thinking. And no, a stadium didn't burn down, but infrastructure, roads, where are all these people going to stay? Where are they going to eat? How do they get from the airport to the hotel? Oh, the conversation was, wow, I wish we'd had digital data of our city, our county, our state.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. You're now in a reactionary space with, no kidding, $40 billion at stake, because the risk is that the Olympic Committee goes, I don't think this can happen. We're going to have the Olympics back in Tokyo, which is where it happened last time 4 years ago during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
so nobody could come. So all the infrastructure is already there and already in place. Could you imagine being the city of LA right now going,
Yeah.
Well, I should stay focused on the point. That's a case in point where, hindsight being 2020, digitize everything, a data library of every physical thing. Yeah, that's AEC, but it's AEC and the and, more often than not, is more interesting business point of view.
Yeah.
Because there's no ceiling to me, and the evidence is all around us. Like we talked about the iPhone.
Yep.
That's a LiDAR scanner.
Yeah.
In a phone.
Yeah.
There are, 4 billion of these things around the world right now? Not this particular phone, but smartphones.
Yeah.
That makes, extrapolate that forward, that means everybody has the potential to digitize everything.
Yep.
So where are things going? There.
Yeah. 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 And, we've not seen that really fully unlocked yet, right? It's been in there. People have been playing with different apps, scanning different stuff for fun. But when it gets to the point, someone builds an actual good process and the software and the integration with other data, and we will get to the point. It's another tool that is used on every single project. And I see it so easily. And again, I also default to AEC or buildings or industrial facilities just because that's where the biggest adoption and use so far has been. I use it in that context of like already today it could be being used. Like you scan a building and a room was locked, right? We couldn't get in the mechanical closet. We scanned the building, but we had to leave. We had to leave site. But your maintenance guy has an iPhone. Download this app, scan that room, send us the data, boom. It's back in the floor plan. Now, scale that in a bigger way, right? Every small room, just use the iPhone. It's fast, it's easy, and if it's built in, we get programmers, we get software, we get people to think, how can this actually add value into a project lifecycle? There's so many scanning people if you consider the phone. It's really not been tapped into yet, other than like starting to play with a bit.
Yeah, but I bet we both agree that it's inevitable.
Oh, it's going. Yeah,
it's coming
for sure.
It's coming. Sure. Which, oh gosh, you could really run with that sort of mentally. Well, where's all that data going to reside? What about ownership and access and all security and I think about extrapolate forward. Any time. Just go out into the world and watch people use their phones. They're videoing everything, taking pictures of everything. My God, pictures of food. It's a trigger for me. Taking pictures of food it doesn't matter. Anything, everything, including food, that they're taking pictures and videos of now, they're gonna scan.
Yep.
So what does the future look like? That.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be wild. Apart from just the scaling of existing technologies, I know you work on a lot of cool projects. You might have stuff coming up maybe you can or can't talk about yet. In general, what's something you're excited about right now?
Well, it's always the next project.
Yep.
Oh, the next great story. And I can't imagine what that is. I mean, there are always candidates flying around on my radar. I am having, God, how would I describe it? I am having a blast on Skinwalker Ranch. Now, define blast. Well, the team is amazing, and they're all smarter than I am, and I'm basically the messenger. I'm creating a bunch of data, and I go, you guys tell me what you think of this. That is incredibly stimulating because we're putting reality capture hardware and software in places it was never intended. I mean, doing crazy stuff. And, will I get laughed at occasionally? Sure.
Yep.
I don't care.
Yep.
Because I've had enough stuff happen to me at that place that I can't explain that it's I feel in a way like the world's biggest lab rat.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what happens. We have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll learn something.
Yeah.
And what's cool is I've got all these vendors behind me going, we've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Can you send us the data? We'd really like to. And, maybe it's something ranch-like, dare I say paranormal, or maybe it can be explained. Maybe we expose a bug in the software or hardware. All of that has happened. So that remains just fascinating.
Yeah.
It's far more questions than answers, and so it's an incredible sandbox to experiment with and see what happens. I'm a complete history nerd, so anything historic preservation wide, I naturally lean into that.
We're gonna go try to do something in those coils underneath the pyramids. No.
You had to go there. No,
sorry.
I'm teasing. Because that has been totally debunked as utter nonsense. And if there's a cool, super cool story, the pyramids, are you kidding me? That's like Machu Picchu and the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
But, for the most part, those places have been done.
Yeah.
So it's the next sparkly object. I don't know what it's going to be.
That can be part of the call to the community too. Is if you know someone or a unique project, reach out.
Yeah. With your permission, shameless pitch. If anybody listening has a killer story, I'm your huckleberry.
There you go.
I'm having some literally semi-real-time conversations on the entertainment side that is transcending into the gaming side.
Yep.
Because again, how could this reality capture be repurposed? And we both agree for anything.
Yeah.
Well, the discussions currently with entertainment are, and I love this, and I'll share what I can strategically. It's changing mass media from tune in tonight and watch to come with us.
Yeah.
Join us.
Yeah.
And finally, because I've been pitching this for about 10 years, production companies, producers, the people in M&E, media and entertainment, are going, I think I get this now.
Yeah.
And like that line from Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last. I actually said that to a Hollywood guy recently, and fortunately he got it. And I'm like, look, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Reality capture is a natural fit for mass media, whether it's a news story, a film, documentary, whatever it is, it changes it from, watching TV to let's get in the TV.
Yeah. What if, right? The news story had a QR code and you scan it with your phone and now you bring it down and you're browsing the scene.
So more evidence that regardless of what your motivation or your interest is at the moment, AEC, entertainment, forensic, whatever it is, it's such a great time because let's say you walk through the forensic door and you go, it's not for me, too gruesome. Pivot.
Yeah.
Let's go make movies.
Yeah.
Or, hey, let's, AEC touches all my buttons. That's what's so great about this space is that ability to pivot because it touches everything.
Yep. And even the secondary skill sets, I think, play a lot into the success of some of this industry and how it's grown so far, right, is the people that are coming in to do scanning, modeling, whatever, most of them, that's not what they originally thought they were going to do. They came from an engineer background, a media background, a graphics background, and they're bringing other skill sets. And that's why back to community, I love this crossover where it's like you're bringing together those different industries to talk about how they're doing things and you're crossing over technical skill sets. So you start getting, let's say media entertainment side, you're getting VFX people to now come into construction.
Yep.
What does that make? Well, now we're talking about high-end renderings and visualization and simulations within an environment that needs some of that background and skill set. And then vice versa, right? Bring some of those other. So it's really cool to see what happens when you start getting the right people together.
Yeah. You make me think of, we're both going to be in Prague in a couple of weeks, and so looking forward to that as I do the trade shows I go to, because my hope is, this is my selfish desire of going to events like this, is somebody I don't know will come up and say, I have an idea.
Yep.
Do you have 2 minutes? And, I've got this crazy idea. I love crazy ideas.
Yep.
Let's see where we can push this.
Yep.
So, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about safe zone. There are no stupid ideas.
Nope.
Few stupid people.
Yep.
But I welcome input from my fellow creatives. It's like, I come from engineering, but I sort of faked it the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm much more the other side of my brain than that side.
Yeah.
I mean, I could do it, and I was successful in it, but it's not – that was work, whereas this is more – it's natural. So – yeah, let's go to Prague and have amazing conversations, and maybe, or what also I hope happens is somebody will give me a demo and I'll just go,
yeah,
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Can we work together? Because I have a project that is a perfect whatever
exactly.
it is.
Yeah. Well, I think even your point of you have to be willing to be bad at something in the beginning, right? In order to get to good. And even saying, right, there's no stupid ideas. A lot of the great companies and the great leaders and great, success came from somebody stepping outside the box and willing to try to do something that if you asked 10 people, 8 of them would have said, that's a crazy idea. You shouldn't do that. That's stupid, right? So it's also like, it's actually interesting when you get people to think what you're doing is a little bit off. You're like, I'm doing something most people won't. They're uncomfortable with, they think is odd. I think that's where really great ideas are born from.
Yeah, this smirk on my face is me sort of laughing, going, that's my new compass bearing.
The whole
if you think it's crazy, I'm going to go scratch that itch a little harder. So it's managing that fear of, stepping off the ledge. Step. What do you got to lose?
Mm-hmm.
What's worse than regret Oh, if I only had.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, I'm not completely naive romantic, family and kids and tuition and mortgages and been there, done that. I get it. But it doesn't mean you can't step.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to step, and even more, if your current situation, if you are currently working, if you are being tolerated, not celebrated, change your situation.
Yep. Yeah. And, there's a lot of companies that unfortunately, that is the culture in. And people do just get stuck in these roles, and sometimes they just stay in them. And, I love you suggesting that. It's when you find a role you can actually love and you can be passionate in, and the people around you are similar. Again, define success for yourself, right? Whether it's financial, but that is success. Loving your job, being appreciated, having some freedom to do things you enjoy. Like, after finding that, I can't imagine going back, right? So trying to go back to the beginning of this conversation, inspire others to find that, to take those steps, to get creative, to try new things.
Yeah. And, I'm not a genius, and I'm not a hero. I'm a dumbass coward. I am, but I've said it already. It's just, my compass bearing became so clear so long ago that, I guess, find your bearing.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't feel right, trust yourself.
Yeah.
Probably isn't right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make you a sociopath. A dear friend of mine many years ago, when I was suffering through something horrible, said, you have permission. Permission to what? Consider how you fit into all of this. Like, oh, okay. And I'm not a, selfish prick. No. You can do that sooner or later, Anyway, I'm so far off topic.
These are all the topic. This is great.
Okay, well, I'm no sage. I'm no genius. I am just, it took me many, many years to find out what I wanted to do. And becoming so attached and passionate to it that there's nothing else. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. And reality capture has been, huge part. Reality capture for me was literally the replacement for the band.
Yeah.
Because, how do you go from playing in front of 30,000 people at the Fiesta Bowl to
sitting in a
being
cubicle,
chained to a workstation designing subdivisions?
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah.
So, my dad, great piece of advice from the sage that he was. I was home, and father-son relationships being, well, Dad, today I did this, and then I did that, wanting his approval desperately. And somewhere in there he said, he goes, boy, your whole life has been one version or another of show business. And I went, the first sort of millisecond, I was sort of offended by that. And I go, damn, he's right. I mean, music, of course, being in a band and turning on an audience, blah, 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 of course. Sales, right. Sales is show business. Know your audience, have a good set list, perform it well, be ready for feedback, adapt, improvise, overcome for the next show. It's all the same. And I'll be like, damn. He's right.
Yeah. It's funny. I resonate a lot with your story because I've shared mine a little bit, but I too, before reality capture, was in music.
You're kidding.
No. See, look, we learned something new about people. This is also why I love the podcast.
Matt just made me say wow. I didn't say it out loud, but that was a wow.
So I'm not going to repeat my whole story, but the truncated version, before I ever gotten into this industry, was actually sports. Growing up as a kid, like I loved sports. I was addicted to it. I thought I would do sports the rest of my life. I got in a head-on car accident in high school. Sports was out. I was like 13 surgeries, couldn't walk, in the hospital, in a wheelchair, and that was right in the prime high school days of sports. And again, I never like bragging, but I was so good in sports. I was the fastest. I was, quarterback. I was whatever. That is all I thought about when I thought about my future, was like, I don't even know about jobs. Like, I'm not even considering jobs. I just love playing sports. When that got taken away because of car accident, I fell quickly down to like a bit of depression, like didn't have any plans. And then, and I played music like on the side. I got taught how to play guitar and stuff, and I was playing in church and learning how to play and playing in a band. But it was never anything like, oh, I'm going to go do that. But because I lost sports, I then shifted that love, right? And this goes back to where I love talking about when you find something you can be passionate about, like that is a game changer. And for me, that went from sports to then music. I ended up joining an existing band, did a 40-state tour, playing festivals. Like I thought, oh my gosh, like music is now the love. That is the passion. I want to do that. Back to the point of, music is one of the most difficult industries, right? You're either sleeping on couches or you're in the palace, right? The middle ground, that is hard to make a living in music.
Suffering.
But what happened there for me, I was 18, 19 years old at that point, and it was 2008. It was financial issues. And so we got back from tour and we were like, you know what? The other band members were older than me. They were 30. I was 18. They were like, we got families and stuff. Like, we need to work. We need to get jobs. That was my entry into land surveying. My dad was a surveyor, so I got back from that tour and plugged into, I need a job, got on a field crew. I did not enjoy surveying at that point, right? You're in a hot environment. You're out nailing stakes in the ground. The old boring surveying that most people, and I don't talk down to the survey industry, but that was not attractive work to a 19-year-old creative. However, couple years into the survey journey, we got introduced to laser scanning. I was into gaming, I was into music, I was into creative. What reality capture did to that person, me at that time, in what I would say at that time was a boring survey role, was like lighting a fire. It was, and I was young, I was creative, I was interested in technology. So who did they put in charge of digging into the scanner when the survey company got introduced to a scanner? They were like, why don't you're young, you're tech, why don't you like take that on and look into it? That was my whole entry into this whole career. It literally was lighting a fire. It was like, I just want to go scan anything I can find. What is in our city that I can just go, a clock tower? Okay, I'm going to scan that. I want to find any bridge nearby. I just want to start scanning it. I just want to process the data and see what it looks like. And that started this whole journey for me. And that's why, again, the next few years in the short story took me from a $13 an hour CAD drafting survey tech guy to a six-figure salary role in a corporate company in a matter of a couple years. Took me from that to deciding, I think I can do even more than that, to building a whole business, to scaling to 20 employee plus, to selling a business. I didn't go to college. I don't have a degree. I don't know how to build a company. This industry, this is why I'm so passionate about it. Like this technology, I'm still young, but I have seen it completely transform my own life, to see it transform different companies, to see it. I'm like, if I can bring this out to the world, right? If I can somehow inspire more people, bring them into this industry, show them these opportunities, it's fun work. You can get excited about it. You don't show up like I used to. Again, not to dig on survey, but when I didn't have this technology and this passion in the role, I was the not great employee in survey. It was not fun. It was hard work. It was hot out. I'm pounding nails. I'm like, ugh, how can I get more pay and more hours but work less? How can I show up late and be okay? Like, I didn't love the work. When you found that thing that really clicked for you, it becomes like, now I'm doing the opposite of that, right? Can I work longer hours? Can I take the scanner home? Can I research it on my own? That completely changed my interest, which helps you learn faster. You become better at it because you're interested.
What I love about that is that totally by surprise, totally unexpected, and, you're on the path, then totally unexpected, total surprise, complete 90 or even 180 turn. And what we were talking about a while back, managing that fear of change, you're like, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
I am inspired.
Mm-hmm.
I am re-energized. There's nothing going to hold me back. I totally get that. It's happened to me. That to me is the best part.
Yep.
Because you could have gone, it's a blip on the radar.
Yep.
Or that's not quite right. Wow, this is cool. Wow, this is great. But I got to go surveying this afternoon.
Yeah.
You didn't. You went, this is my path. This is my calling, whatever it is. So maybe that, I think therein is sort of, I guess, be prepared to be distracted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Be ready for it.
Yeah.
Because if it happens and you go, yeah, that was cool, but I got to go back to work. Think again, because regret is the worst.
Yeah, and
worst.
if I look back at what my journey looked like, and I try to relate now, seeing someone else in a role and thinking like, how did not everybody's journey plays out the same, right? But how did my path look, and where are they at? What can I try to suggest or share in my own story to inspire them and make them think outside the box? Because if in that role I was in, I just kind of dipped my toes in, but stayed in my normal role, what has happened since then would have never happened.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that really changed my future was jumping all the way in. I was like, nothing else was going to distract. It was like, I love this so much. I'm not pursuing traditional survey license. I'm not working on this anymore. I am going to dig into this technology and where I can use it and where I can apply it. And that, you do have to take that risk. You do have to know there's going to be failures. You're going to struggle,
Yeah, and speaking of failure, for the folks out there who might, it's a lot easier said than done. Look, again, managing fear of change, failure, as much as it sucks, for my personality, it has always been the greatest teacher.
Absolutely.
It can be brutal. So if you're on the path and you get distracted and it turns you on and you're, I can't, I shouldn't, what if I fail? Go anyway.
Yep.
You take the jump, because you're telling yourself, what if I fail? So fail. Do you know what you're going to learn from that?
Yep.
And by the way, I believe this so much. When I used to hire people, and I used to have people in front of me, and they'd come in for an interview, I might look at their resume.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. Because I knew what it said. You walk on water, you can turn water into wine, you've done everything, you're an expert.
Yep.
I only had one question. I would say, tell me about a failure.
Mm-hmm.
And they would just go, and you get one of three answers. Well, I've never failed. Next.
Yeah.
Well, I failed and it wasn't my fault. Next. Well, I failed, but God, I learned from it. And here's how I recovered from that. Or here's how I turned that failure into a success. Here's where that failure wasn't actually a failure. It was a gift. Like, you belong with me. Let's work together.
Oh, yes. That's been a big lesson learned for me over the last 10 years of business. You know, when I first started hiring employees, again, knew nothing about business. I wanted to go off resumes. I wanted to go off of experience. I am so the opposite end now, to your point of you need good people that are willing to learn, that are willing to listen, that are not always right, that are flexible, that are, if they already have some experience, perfect. But if I had to choose, it would be based on the person and them as those qualities over anything they've accomplished in the past. Now you can find the crossover. That's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and innovation and experience are not always good bedfellows, because if you're a true innovative shop, if the culture of your enterprise is like how I describe myself, I have no box to think outside of. There is no box.
I like that.
Your experience could be a problem because you're gonna have to unlearn all that.
Yep.
Or if we're gonna work together, I might see that experience as you think it's experience, but I need to know that you're flexible enough that you're not married to that.
Yeah.
That, hey, I'm not saying it's not relevant, but I know you know what I'm talking about, that look, we innovate. So I love the experience, but you need to be okay that might not be that relevant.
Yeah. And then hopefully, build into their mindset of trying to break your own processes.
Of course.
Right? Like, even what you do think, and I try to do this for myself, is question everything I think is right? Like, go get advice from other people, ask for feedback from other people, and question everything that you think is the right answer.
Inspire me. Hell yeah, challenge me. Come at me with, I got a crazy idea.
Yep.
Let's hear it.
Yep.
Again, another band analogy. I never wanted to play in bands with people who were better than I was. That is, well, everybody was a better musician than me, so it was impossible. But I always played in bands where I was the weak link. Mm-hmm. What I knew how to do was organization and marketing and keeping the band together. And I could sing and I could play, but no, I wanna play / work with people who, God, that was amazing.
Yep.
Wow. And I just became a better guitar player or a better businessman as a result.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's who wants to be bored?
Got to keep it interesting.
My biggest fear. So,
well, as we start to wrap up, which I'll be honest, I think you've shared a lot of great things.
Likewise.
A lot of great insight, a lot of great points. And maybe some of this will even be a summary of what you've already shared, but you've obviously had a long, awesome career. You've had a lot of different experiences. You've done cool things. You are, stepping into the unknown. Go back to your younger self or someone that's kind of starting into their journey. If you were to summarize some of what your lessons learned or your advice would be, what would you tell that person?
Scratch all your itches before your itches become our itches. don't be, I hate to be so vague, but if you have things that you just have to do, a passion, reality capture, whatever it is, do them. Take the leap. Now, if you find somebody and that somebody celebrates those passions, cool. But that's extraordinarily rare.
Mm-hmm.
So as I look back, it's that. It's if you've got yayas that you just got to get out, get to them. Get to them. What's that line from Shawshank Redemption? Get busy living or get busy dying.
There you go. I like that. That's good. Yeah. I agree. And I think another thing that I see or hear that I agree with is for those younger folk that don't know what they want to do yet, and maybe they don't even have that. Maybe they don't have something that's a passion that they want to do, is before you really lock into a role at a certain company in a certain industry, is you got a long career ahead of you, right? Usually. Try a few things.
Amen.
Take a couple different internships or purposefully try a couple different companies or roles or industries or something, because I think so many people don't do that, and they do get locked into what they originally went to school for or they thought they were going to do, and they really don't love it. But the power that comes from really finding something you love doing, it may not be the first thing you thought you were going to do, right? Or it may not even be the first, 2 companies you land at. So in your earlier years, trying a couple things out, trying a couple roles, it gives you, I think, a higher likelihood of finding something you love doing. And what that will do for the next 5, 10, 20 years versus waiting and finding it later, I think would be...
Yeah. Welcome change.
Yeah.
Manage your fear. Surround yourself with good people. And don't be an asshole.
Those are some great pieces of advice, and maybe we summarize the very ending with also go find cool stories to tell.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't care who's listening to this. You have stories.
Everybody has a story.
Everybody has a story. And if you haven't discovered your story, you will. Yeah. That's about welcoming change and managing fear. And if you haven't found it yet and you're suffering and miserable and hey, you've been there, done that. The only difference between a person going through that and say, I'll even include you and I, is we stepped.
Yep. Yeah.
We went, okay, let's see what's behind door number 3. And, thank God we did.
Yeah.
So I think that's where take the leap. One small step for mankind.
There you go. Well, thank you again for coming in, sharing some of your story. And as I say to many guests, I'm sure this won't be the last time that these wonderful people hear from you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank everyone.
All right. We'll see you again next time.